One of these planes quietly prints billions for airlines. The other? It's a high-stakes gamble that only pays off when every seat is filled. The Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 may look similar from the terminal window, but behind the scenes they serve two radically different missions. Today we're digging into real-world economics, not brochure stats, to uncover which jet is the true moneymaker when the wheels leave the runway. The 787 entered service in 2011. The A350 followed in 2014. Their main clash? The 787-9 versus the A350-900, one built for flexibility, the other for scale. And that difference can decide whether a route is a gold mine or a money pit. Two very different visions. The Dreamliner entered service in 2011 flying for ANA of Japan. Boeing marketed it as nothing less than revolutionary. 50% composite construction, engines that burned 20% less fuel, and a cabin that felt like something out of science fiction. But beneath the hype was a clear business play. Boeing wanted airlines to use the 787 to connect secondary cities directly, skipping congested hubs. Tokyo to Boston, Austin to London, Nairobi to Guangzhou. These were the kinds of long, thin routes that older widebodies would never make money on. Airbus, meanwhile, had been watching closely. In 2014, they rolled out the A350, and unlike Boeing, Airbus wasn't trying to invent a new market. They were targeting the heart of long-haul travel. The A350 was bigger, carried more passengers, and could fly farther. It was designed not just to compete with the Dreamliner, but to edge into Boeing's 777 territory. And with its new Rolls-Royce Trent XWB engines, it promised to be the most fuel-efficient widebody ever built. So right from the beginning, these two planes weren't answering the same question. The 787 was asking, how do you make thinner routes profitable? Two very different visions, but which one would actually prove more profitable once airlines put them to the test? The cost paradox. Airlines don't like to admit it, but list prices are theatre. Boeing's sticker price for a 787-9 was nearly $292 million. Airbus's A350-900, around $317 million, but with discounts often reaching 50%, most carriers were paying closer to $150 million for a Dreamliner, maybe $170 million for an A350. Sounds straightforward, right? Except the real math doesn't stop there. That gap may not seem huge, but multiply it across a fleet of 50 jets, and suddenly you've got $1 billion difference. For airlines financing purchases through loans or leases, that's a big deal. The cheaper Dreamliner looks like the safer play. Buying the plane isn't the end of the cost. It keeps bleeding money through depreciation, and new aircraft lose value fast. In just 10 years, a jet can lose half its value. That's billions gone. And that's where airlines start sweating, because the bigger the sticker, the bigger the hit. Yet Airbus had a trump card. Because the A350 was designed to carry more passengers and cargo, its cost per seat mile, the holy grail of airline economics, was often lower. Fill those extra seats, and the higher purchase price pays itself back quickly. Leave them empty, and it's a disaster. So the cost paradox emerges. The 787 is cheaper to buy and easier to finance. The A350 is more expensive, but when full, it often generates higher margins. Empty seats versus extra seats. Profitability in aviation lives or dies by one thing: load factor. How many seats can you sell? The 787-9 usually carries about 290 passengers. The A350-900? Closer to 325. That's 35 extra tickets to sell on every flight. On a New York to London run, those seats can mean $20,000 more revenue each trip. Over a year, that's tens of millions. And that's before you count cargo. The A350's belly can carry around 20% more freight than the Dreamliner. On routes where cargo demand is strong, think Asia to Europe. That alone can make the A350 a profit beast. But there's a flip side. On thinner routes, those extra seats can sit empty. An A350 flying half full is a money pit. The Dreamliner, smaller and more flexible, hits break-even loads more easily. That's why it became the darling of airlines testing new markets. A half-empty Dreamliner can still scrape by, but an A350 flying half-empty? That loss is a nightmare airlines try to hide. It all comes down to those 35 seats, and the airlines who bet right or wrong would learn the lesson fast. Airlines who bet right. No one demonstrates the A350's philosophy better than Qatar Airways. CEO Akbar Al-Baker was one of its loudest champions, and for good reason. On trunk routes like Doha to London or Doha to New York, where premium cabins are always full and cargo space is gold, the A350 is practically a money printer. The larger cabin means more business-class seats to sell at $5,000 a pop. The cargo hold hauls everything from electronics to fresh flowers. For Qatar, the A350 isn't just a plane. It's the engine behind their hub and spoke empire. Now flip to United Airlines. They've leaned on the 787 to transform their international strategy. Instead of forcing passengers to connect through Chicago or Newark, they opened direct routes from cities like Denver, Houston, and San Francisco to far-flung destinations. Flights like Houston to Sydney or San Francisco to Chengdu wouldn't have been possible or profitable with a larger A350. But with the Dreamliner's lower risk and smaller size, they could experiment, capture underserved demand, and lock in high-yield traffic before rivals. Qatar squeezes profit out of scale. United squeezes profit out of flexibility, but one of them would soon learn how fragile those profits could be. Reliability equals money. Every airline's CFO knows one truth: a grounded plane is a bleeding asset. And here's where the Dreamliner story gets rocky. In 2013, just 2 years after its launch, the 787 fleet was grounded worldwide after its lithium-ion batteries caught fire. It was an embarrassing and expensive setback. Later, Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engines faced blade durability issues, forcing airlines to ground jets and swap engines at enormous cost. More recently, Boeing has struggled with quality control problems in production, delaying deliveries and forcing airlines to reshuffle fleets. The A350 hasn't been perfect. Qatar famously grounded some over-surface paint degradation, but operationally it had a far smoother record. The Trent XWB engines are among the most reliable in service. Dispatch reliability has consistently exceeded 99%. For airlines, that's pure profit. Every cancelled flight costs tens of thousands. Refunds, hotels, crew disruption, it adds up fast. Every avoided cancellation is money saved. Do passengers notice? Passengers don't read depreciation charts. They judge an aircraft by how it feels. And here, both jets have their selling points. The Dreamliner wowed the world with its huge dimmable windows, higher cabin humidity, and lower cabin altitude. These features actually reduce jet lag and dehydration, a selling point airlines love to advertise. The A350 fights back with serenity. Its wider fuselage means slightly wider seats, especially in economy. Its cabin is whisper quiet, its ceilings higher, and its wing flex in turbulence so smooth that frequent flyers swear they can feel the difference. Do these features change profitability? Not directly, but they shape loyalty. And when a business traveler picks your airline again and again for comfort, that loyalty translates into tens of thousands in repeat revenue. Orders don't lie. So what do airlines actually choose when money is on the line? Boeing has logged more than 1,800 orders for the Dreamliner, with over 1,100 delivered. Airbus trails with about 1,200 A350 orders and more than 600 delivered. The difference says a lot. The Dreamliner's smaller size and cheaper price tag made it accessible to more carriers worldwide. Airlines in emerging markets, or those dipping into long-haul for the first time, could afford the risk. The A350, bigger and more expensive, became the flagship choice for established global carriers like Singapore Airlines, Cathay Pacific, and Lufthansa. One is a mass-market success, the other a flagship for the elites. But Boeing's original plan? It was something far stranger. And it almost killed the Dreamliner. Now, the irony is that the Dreamliner we know today almost never existed in this form. In the early 2000s, Boeing's big idea wasn't fuel efficiency at all. It was a near supersonic jet called the Sonic Cruiser, a jet designed to fly just below supersonic speed. It promised shorter flight times, not better fuel efficiency. But after oil prices spiked in the early 2000s, airlines wanted savings, not speed. The Sonic Cruiser was scrapped, and Boeing pivoted to efficiency instead. The result? The 787 Dreamliner. The verdict. So which jet actually makes airlines more money? The A350 often wins on big, busy routes. It carries more people, more cargo, and does it with remarkable reliability. For mega hubs like Doha, Singapore, or London, it's the perfect profit machine. The 787, however, has arguably been more profitable overall because it changed the game. It allowed airlines to open new city pairs, to serve smaller markets, and to grow without betting on filling hundreds of extra seats. It isn't just about maximizing one route, it's about multiplying the number of routes you can profitably fly. Airbus built a plane for scale, Boeing built a plane for flexibility, and in different ways both reshaped the economics of long-haul aviation. So if you had to bet your airline's future on one jet, would you choose the A350's scale or the 787's flexibility? Let us know in the comments, and while these two dominate today's skies, the real disruption might be coming from a new jet Airbus just revealed, one that could replace the A320 and reshape short-haul forever. That's our next deep dive. Hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more unforgettable stories from the sky.